So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Brandon, Matt, and I. Brandon, absolute honor to have you on here. You absolutely killed it on here, and we look forward to having you on again down the road. So, now for episode 149 of Eazy Conversations, I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. Say what's up with the people.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great day right now. Super excited for this episode, Eric. I love the last episode we did with Brandon, top 10 hip hop albums. We got yet another top 10 list for you, my favorite episodes. Very excited to share my list tonight, Eric. How are you feeling right now?
Likewise, yeah, we're doing the second, the two towers of the trilogy here, our top 10 TV shows of 2024. Always love this time of year where we get to just kick back and dust off the pen and pad and write down our top tens. It's always a tough task, I find, because I keep a running list year long of both albums, TV shows, and then obviously movies that I've watched. So I'm able to easily go back to that and review what I've watched, and then it's really the difficulty lies in ranking them afterwards, right? There's always a few that I know, like, all right, these are top three, top five shows. It's kind of rounding out the 10 to 6 that can become tricky. Honestly, I feel like recency bias for me, anyways, does play a big role in that. It's like a show that dropped at the start of the year that I may have enjoyed a lot kind of falls by the wayside, and which is why it's interesting that I like that we did the mid-year top 5 ranking this year to see where those kind of shows, if they stood the test of time and made it high on the list. So yeah, no, list making not easy for this one. I'll say, like, my top ones were pretty easy, but the bottom 5 I had to think stuff over a lot. How about you? How was the list making for you?
The list making was hard for me. Just like you, Eric, my 5 to 10 spots were the hardest to pick. TV is the hardest to watch, guys. Between TV, movies, and hip hop albums, it takes it's a big time commitment watching a TV show. I've watched only 24 shows in 2024. To me, that's a great accomplishment because I don't have a lot of spare time. But like, I know it's like there's a lot that I'm gonna miss. You're gonna have Blue Eye Samurai me again this year. I know you are. You're gonna have those hidden gem shows that I missed. I wish I had seen more, honestly. I like my list now. Looking at it, um, very hard to judge. Like, how come this show is gonna be better? Like, how come this show? Why is a show with like 30-minute episodes better than this show with 1 hour-long episodes that's more dramatic? You know, it's hard to gauge that, right? Comedy, drama, maybe a thriller, intense show. Is it better than just a soft-hearted comedy show? Anyways, I had a fun time making a list in the end, though, like the grind. Yeah, I mean, it just motivates me next year, Eric, to go even harder and like pump more shows out. Fill my list with more. So my list was hard to make. I'm ultimately satisfied with it, though, and I hope we have some different shows so we can like get each other with a show that like a blind spot, basically. So yeah, I'm excited to see your list, Eric.
I think we will. I mean, you got 24. I was able to finish 21 shows. Now, are you counting shows that you've finished them start to finish? Because I write down every show I watch, but then if I don't finish it, I'm not counting it as a show. I've 21 shows total for me this year, but I started far more than that. Like Tires, for example, on Netflix, never got around to finishing it. But yeah, no, that's a great number. Like 2 per month, basically. So
Well, yeah, some of them are like shorter shows, like limited series shows, like any show on Disney Plus, half-hour long, like that counts for me. But no, it has to be from start to finish.
okay,
So
right.
yeah,
So
24 of them.
same
I
criteria.
can share my list at the end too if people want to know. But yeah, did you want to do like we? Did you want me to start, Eric, or did
Yeah,
you want to go?
you can start, Matt. Give
Okay,
us the
I'll
10.
start because I was last for hip hop, I believe, right? So, anyways, my number 10 show. It's a Netflix TV show. This is, you said recency bias. This is recent for me. This is, I think, the last show I watched on Netflix. It's called Black Doves, starring Keira Knightley and Ben Whishaw. It's like a 6-episode miniseries, spy, espionage, hitmen, that sort of thing going on, all in London, England. It's cool. I can recognize some of the areas where they shot. Yeah, it's about hitmen and stuff from the past resurfacing. Show starts off with like murders happening, and then our Keira Knightley gets roped back into her old life, basically. She's like a super spy. Really fun show, actually. Really cool, fast paced, not boring, formulaic, but very enjoyable to watch. Cool fight scenes, cool gunplay scenes. The highlight of the show is Ben Withshaw, who people know as Q in the new James Bond movies. He's great in it. Amazing as a contract killer. He's the highlight of that show. Black Dove, 6 episodes, very easy to watch, engrossing, thrilling. It's like popcorn fun, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's really entertaining. So that's Black Doves at my number 10.
Cool. No, I've never heard of this. Like we're starting off right off the bat with a blue-eyed samurai Uno reverse situation. So no, I mean I think for me because we don't have Netflix right now, so I'm not privy to the content on that library. But yeah, no, that sounds interesting. Like a nice British spy thriller, and like you said, it's fun to see areas that you've been to personally appear in a movie or show. So it's always like a sense of familiarity and like, hey, like it's cool that I'd been there and stuff. So no, that's awesome. But no, I don't have too much more to add because I've not seen this one, unfortunately. So once we get back on the Netflix wave, it's add to the list sitch. So for me, I'm gonna go with a Apple TV product that we did discuss briefly. And if you're watching on YouTube, again, we're going to be putting up everybody's picks on the graphic as we go along, similarly to the hip hop episode. So number 10 for me is Presumed Innocent, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Really enjoyed this show, honestly. It's one that I absolutely binged. The whole season was out. I just wanted to know who killed Carolyn Polimis, the name that you hear probably 100,000 times be name dropped throughout this series. They just love throwing the full name out there. So obviously Jake Gyllenhaal is a prosecutor. He becomes the prime suspect in the murder of his colleague with whom he was having an affair. Now, I just read the premise description on Wikipedia, and I promise you there's a lot more intrigue. If that doesn't have you hooked right there, I don't know what will, but there's a lot of nice twists and turns along the way. You're kind of second guessing everything as information's presented throughout the series. You begin to question, did Jake do it? Did he not? He plays Rusty is his name. So he's definitely a morally great. I mean, he's having an affair for Christ's sake, so he's not really your prototypical good guy husband, and he's not really someone that you can trust at all times, right? So the whole time you're questioning, did he do it? Did he not? And there's a lot of interesting characters in the show as well along the way. So I definitely recommend if you haven't seen Presumed Innocent, but I think this was one that was like hardly advertised or promoted by Apple, but fantastic performance by Jake Gyllenhaal and the supporting cast across the board. There's Peter Sarsgaard, who I didn't even know was one of what's his face? Stellan Skarsgård's kids. He was in there as well. He plays he's on the opposite end of Jake Gyllenhaal there, so he's kind of trying to prove that he did murder Carolyn. So you're not really rooting for him, but he gave a great performance in there as well. So yeah, Presumed Innocent. Number 10.
Oh, I totally forgot about the show, Eric. Did you say Peter Sarsgaard is in the show? I think that's Jake Gyllenhaal's brother-in-law, married to Maggie Gyllenhaal. So I don't know if he's a Skarsgård.
Interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you might be right. I mean, I trust
Peter Sarsgaard.
Right? Peter Sarsgaard. Jesus. Okay. All right, yeah. That's
what's cool is it's his
close, right?
Like
close.
He's married to Maggie, so his bro-in-law's in the show too. He always plays creepy characters. I don't know if he plays one in Presumed Innocent. Eric, your Apple TV is your Netflix is my Apple TV because like I don't have Apple TV, and I know there's a lot of good shows that appeared on it this year. So I think you're gonna get me a lot with Apple TV stuff. I just wrote it down. I'm gonna write all the shows I haven't watched and check them out. So can't wait to watch it. I did watch the movie with Harrison Ford though, so I might know the twist. But that's awesome. My number 9 is a show we both watched. I think we both had it in our top 5, the mid-year top 5. Number 9 for me is Fallout from Amazon Prime. Super fun to watch. I knew nothing about Fallout. I love the world building, the characters, the people in the vault, the people on the outside. Walton Coggins, best character in the show, like his character, like his journey basically The Knights, the robotic Knights, and their faction going on, all the different factions and people interacting with each other. Loved it. Cool action in there, funny at times. This is a show that I would like in season 2, maybe to get darker or more action, more the stakes get higher, maybe, and have more clarification as to like where the story's going. Not clarification, but like more like a selected path. But yeah, Fallout, really fun show. Not much wrong with it. I know if you're a fan of the game, the show like fan service like crazy with all the Easter eggs, but me not going in blind, I still thoroughly enjoyed it. Can't wait for season 2. So yeah, number 9, I have Fallout.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one as well. Like you said, Walton Goggins, the absolute standout in this show. Every time his ghoul character appeared on screen, not only because of his look, but just his presence and aura, I think, on screen, he just commanded your attention and had the coolest moments. I want to say, like his first scene when he gets the grave diggers open up his grave to kill him, I believe, or maybe it's to resuscitate him. I forget. It's been a while, but he just absolutely annihilates them, and then has the cold, ice cold line deliveries too. Just a scene stealer in every right. And yeah, just a badass character. Love his journey. I liked Ella Purnell a lot in the main character in the main role. She was really good. Then you got Kyle MacLachlan as well, so who we're gonna get a lot more of him in season 2, I imagine. Big return at the end, but yeah, no, cool, really cool introduction to this world that I'm not familiar with whatsoever. I love the look of the robots, the Guardians, I want to say they're called or something, the Knights, and yeah, it kind of reminded me of the show Silo, another Apple TV one that's currently airing as we speak, season 2, and a bit of The Last of Us just because of the apocalyptic setting. But no, this is a really good show. Really looking forward to season 2. So number 9 for me, another kind of recency bias and being influenced by the fact that I just watched The Wizard of Oz and Wicked. I'm going with Agatha All Along here as my number 9. Probably the biggest surprise enjoyment of the year for me, based on going into the year I had zero intention of watching this, let alone thinking that I would enjoy it if I did watch it. Pleasantly surprised, liked it more every single episode. Obviously we talked about this in fair lengths in our Marvel episode not too long ago, but like I said, I've seen The Wizard of Oz and Wicked since then, and I really appreciate now all the homages to Wizard of Oz and where it drew inspiration from. Really well executed in terms of Easter eggs and just building off WandaVision, the path that it laid down. Yeah, Agatha All Along, Catherine Hahn, killer in the main role as well. I think she obviously carried, but the supporting cast, who are all unknowns to me anyways, did a great job, and like I said, got better every episode. I cared for this group that 2 episodes in, I shut it off with no intention of revisiting when I first started watching the show. So, no, kudos to everyone on the Marvel side on this production. One of my favorite productions of Marvel in 2024. So, yeah, Agatha All Along, number 9 for me.
That's a great pick, Eric. This is why I love doing the podcast. I would have never have watched the show if I wasn't doing this podcast, basically. I too stopped a couple episodes in, but then picked it up when you announced that we were going to do it on the podcast. But no, I loved it too. Way better than I ever imagined it could be. WandaVision was a great show, and this kind of follows it, so it doesn't disappoint. Love the folklore aspect of that show. Big witch folklore guy over here, so kind of like getting me in the mood now to maybe check out Wicked. I love The Wizard of Oz too, Eric. Cool references, but yeah, I'm glad you have that on there. Number 9, excellent. My number 8 is a British television show, again on Netflix. It's the Gentleman, the Guy Ritchie produced TV show. It's basically a British gangster show starring Theo James. Inherits land from his dad, who passed away. His dad was a huge rich billionaire, lord, earl, whatever it is, but he has huge grow-ups under his estate controlled by this gangster, and Theo James kind of falls into the world you're either cooperating or not cooperating, so choose either at your own risk, right? What's cool about this show is there's no good or bad guys. You know, it's like a typical gangster stuff. Do you root for the bad guy? Everyone's flawed, anyways. There's some good likable traits about everybody in the show. It blurs the line, you know. Cool escalation too. Like the last episode's really good. Like there's a build up throughout the show, and it ends really well in my opinion. Just like a Guy Ritchie movie with all like the twists and turns, and this show's super fast paced, rapid fire dialogue, funny, darkly funny, really good movie. Well, based off the movie The Gentleman, but like really good show. If you like British rated R, you know, like really offensive and like dark comedy to the max, The Gentleman is really good, easy to watch. So that's number 8 for me, The Gentleman. It's on Netflix.
Okay, right on. So when we did our mid-year episode, you had it on here. I talked about it in that I had started it and then stopped maybe 4 or 5 episodes in. Unfortunately, that's kind of where my update, it remains something that I can just copy and paste here. I did not go back to it. I might have to, though, because I'm pretty sure it got renewed for a second season. It's on your list out of 24 shows you've seen this year. Like I said, I'm going to have to get Netflix again to do so, but when we do, it'll be one that I revisit in anticipation also of season 2. And I'm hoping anyways, based on what I had seen, that the Theo James character, Ed, if I recall, does encounter some difficulty in navigating his father's estate, because he seemed to be, in my opinion, just too suave, always in control, always had the, like I said at the time, Harvey Specter last second Hail Mary play, always pulled it off the final second of the game. But I think there's definitely potential in this show, and it was set in a cool world. I liked what they set up there. And I like gangster stuff, so one to look back at for me for sure. Number 8 for me, gonna go again back to the Apple TV well, a show that I recommended not too long ago that you've also seen, Matt, talked about it, would be Alfonso Cuarón's Disclaimer. Might have butchered the name pronunciation there. But this was another one that, similarly to Presumed Innocent, I absolutely binged the 6 episodes, I want to say. Very 7 episodes, led by its performances from Cate Blanchett, Kevin Kline, and Sacha Baron Cohen. A story told in a Rashomon-like manner, funnily enough, one of the first movies I watched in 2024, that you get the same story told from multiple points of view, which leads you to question the events that happened and if what we're hearing are correct recallings or twisted to serve your own narrative, basically. So, events that happened when Cate Blanchett's character, Catherine Ravenscroft, was a young mother on vacation with her husband and her son. She then meets a young boy. He's like 18, 19, whatever, and there's an affair that happens there, and then the boy dies, and the father is out for revenge against Cate Blanchett's character many years later. And again, we're hearing the events be retold from the father's perspective. Cate Blanchett's perspective, and then there's another one in there as well. So we're just, anyways, I don't want to spoil anything there, but you as a viewer are left to figure out on your own what in fact did happen, I think. So I like that it's kind of open-ended. You can kind of like The Sopranos in a sense. You can make it what you wish it to be. So it was a thinker, a lot of twists, and I like that, like I said, it's kind of a pick your own ending situation, if you will. So yeah, Disclaimer, number 8. That would be my pick.
Eric, that's a beautiful description of the show. I love the Rashomon comparison. That movie came out in 1950, and it's still being used as it's still influencing films and TV shows like No Tomorrow. I love Disclaimer as well. The acting was amazing. The dialogue, some of the lines in the last few episodes between like Sacha Baron Cohen and Cate Blanchett were so powerful and savage and emotional. Very emotional show. You said something there that made me question the entire show, actually. We might have to talk off air after the podcast about it. That's all I'm going to say on the show. I loved it too, Eric. Yeah, we'll have to discuss something off here maybe.
Well, I mean,
Number.
I just want to say
Go
quickly,
ahead.
and like that's another I think point in favor of this show is that there's a bunch of ways you can take it. Like you can take it at, and I don't know if face value is appropriate here, but like the show can end as it ends. I don't know if there's going to be a second season. There might not need to be, but
Uh-huh.
just how everything ends, there's I think a bunch of ways to take
Okay.
what's presented.
Okay, I was taking it at face value, but you made me question something.
Yeah.
Anyways, more on that later. Number 7 for me is. We're going back to Netflix again. Number 7 is a mini limited series, Baby Reindeer. This
Okay.
absolutely floored me. It could have been Beef from the year before with the Stephen Young show, Beef, but it wasn't as good as Beef, so that's why it's number 7. Baby Reindeer was very hard to watch. It's about a struggling comedian who is getting stalked by a lady, actually. It's like a reverse stalking story where the lady's a stalker and she won't leave him alone. She's following him. He works at a bar. She's at the bar every day. She starts being obsessed with him. But then there's kind of like that whole argument or dialogue of like, at first he's kind of playing around and not leading her on, but kind of like joking with her. And that's when you're like, did he take it too far? There's a lot of debate, basically. Just like disclaimer, Baby Reindeer has a lot of topics of debate, like should he have acted differently? Should he have done this? Baby Reindeer's based on the main actor's real life stalker. Like this actually happened to him, so he claims in real life, just like it happened in the show. Now, did he take liberties? Probably. The main character is played by the person in real life, but like he's about 40 right now. He plays like a 20-year-old 20 something version of himself, so you kind of have to suspend that disbelief. But it's a very interesting show, Eric, because this is what he went through, and there's stuff about like abuse of power and position and critique on Hollywood and that whole industry. There's a lot of that going on too. It's like 6 episodes, 30 to 40 minutes each. Very fast show to watch. Heavy subject matter. There's a couple episodes they have like a warning before the episode. Like this episode depicts scenes of bleep bleep bleep. I won't say what it is, but there's stuff like that in it. So Baby Reindeer number 7, hard hitting but engrossing in my opinion, very emotional. Yeah, that's my number 7.
Okay, again, I remember you talking about this in our mid-year rankings. Haven't had the chance to check it out, but I am also seeing it on a lot of year-end lists, seeing that it was a thought-provoking one, powerful show, eerie, I want to say, based on what I'm getting here, and one to check out for sure, but unfortunately can't add too much more at this time. So, no, love to see that on there. Hope I'm thinking there's maybe one more Netflix show on your list here based on what I recall, but we'll see where it goes. So my next one was, I believe, my number 2 at the mid-year rankings, and it's dropped down 5 spots, but still on the list. Really enjoyed it. First season of the new show on Prime Video, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, starring Donald Glover and Maya Erskine in the titular roles as John and Jane, respectively. And I absolutely loved this show. I thought it was both stylistically a cool show, but more importantly, a great love story in there between these two people who are coupled up from a CIA and I want to say something along those lines, or another spy agency background. They come together, they become the married couple, they go on different assignments to stop certain events from happening, murder people, etc. But I also thought this was a hilarious show, and it was really carried by Maya Erskine and Donald Glover's chemistry. I found phenomenal stuff. I thought, despite it being an obviously unrealistic setting, they had a lot of realistic and relatable stuff about love in there, and just dynamics with characters that like people you encounter in the streets, family, strangers, all that, friends. I really dug this show. I'm looking forward to the second season. That not sure if that'll be out this year or not, but it has been renewed for a second season, and the episodes weren't too long. Some of them were shorter, some were longer, but easy binge. If you haven't seen it, Matt, check it out. It's on Prime Video. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Donald Glover, I feel like any show that he's a part of, be it Atlanta or Community, he has some creative influence and brings his team along with him. I think his brother was a part of this production, and the director or creator of this show. I just want to get his name. Hiro Murai. He's fantastic behind the camera. He directed a few episodes and just has a distinct style about him. So definitely recommend Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Check it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, this is one of my regrets, Eric, sadly. I knew of this show because you brought it up already in the top 5. A coworker, too, was raving to me about it, like, just in, like, last month, and I just never got around to it. It's one of those shows I would have watched if I wasn't watching any Blue Jays or Ottawa Senators. You know, like, that eats up my time, too. I'm just making excuses now, but I'm definitely going to watch this show because there's going to be another season, and it's been recommended by you and a coworker that I trust his opinion. Like, he's the one who liked Disclaimer as well. You two are on the same page on a lot of shows here. Yeah. He said Maya Erskine, who he didn't know who she was, but she was great, and I know nothing about her, so I can't wait to see her in it. I already know Donald Glover. He's great, so yeah, I wrote it down, so I'm going to check that one out for sure.
Yeah, no, your coworker actually ghost wrote my top 10, so you're gonna see similarities between the two of our lists for sure.
Awesome. Hey, maybe we'll get him on next year for the top 10 TV shows. Yeah. He watches a lot of TV.
Like that.
Yeah. All right, you kind of alluded to my number 6 already. The last Netflix show on my list. One of the last Netflix shows on my list. Number 6 for me is indeed Ripley. On Netflix. Ripley is the most beautiful show of 2024. It's got black and white cinematography. It's framed like a freaking piece of art. It's amazing. Like, that's half the show is watching the beautiful cinematography. The reason it's so high on my list at number 6. If this show didn't look this beautiful, I don't think it'd make my top 10. Because the story is very average and it's like glacially paced, you know, it's slow. But the acting is great. And again, visually, stylistically, it's the best of the year. One of the best of the year. There's murder in it. There's false identity stuff going on. It's basically The Talented Mr. Ripley, the movie The Talented Mr. Ripley. But this is, I mean, those are based off books. So this is just an adaptation of the book. Because this author's written several books about Tom Ripley, and this is just one of them. Like I said, Eric, if you watch it, like, one episode can go by and only like this amount of actions this amount of stuff has happened, but it's beautiful to watch. So if you're into that, I recommend this show. It wouldn't be the first show I'd run to if I was like when you get Netflix back. Won't be like the first thing I'd run back to, but if you have the time, Ripley is, to me, it's well worth it. It's gorgeous. It's a work of art, like I said. Super, like, unreal cinematography, Eric. So, anyways, number 6 for me is Ripley.
Okay, right on. I mean, I appreciate good cinematography. I mentioned last episode, or the episode before that, appreciation of a Wes Anderson nicely framed shot. Any director who can employ good-looking shots in there, I always like. And even if there's not that much going on in the scene, I can stand it to appreciate that. So, no, I'll get to this one when the Netflix game is back on over here, but until then, all I can do is just sit in silence and wait. So, number 6 for me is, again, this is a big-time recency bias, but I absolutely loved this show. Another Apple TV Plus. We're just sponsored by Apple TV over here on Eric's list, folks. And it would be the 2nd season of the show Shrinking, starring Jason Segel and Harrison Ford. Ensemble cast in here, I've only singled those two out because they're the ones that you would see on the poster. But man, this show is such a surprise to me when I started watching it last year based on recommendations from a few people. A friend, my mom, had nothing but good things to say about it. And this show, I find, is kind of following your Ted Lasso arc where season 1, while they deal with a lot of very heavy stuff, was lighter. Season 2, we're getting into some darker stuff. And 3, I imagine, will be getting into even further deeper into the darkness. But they find a way to keep a lot of humor in there, which is what keeps us coming back. And it's kind of I've always described it as an unrealistic show in the sense that there's so many characters that are all overly involved in each other's lives. Like neighbors get involved, like, oh, this business venture, I'm gonna hop in here and invest. Oh, you're going to see your parents for Thanksgiving, I'm gonna come by, I'm gonna clean. Like, there's just a bit too much going on, but I love almost all of the characters a lot, that it makes it bearable, and you don't mind the unrealistic stuff that goes on in here. But really, Jason Segel killing it in this role. Great second revival to his career following Marshall Erickson in How I Met Your Mother. So basically, he plays a therapist. His wife passed away was killed in a car crash a few years before the show starts, and we're kind of seeing him and his daughter go through the grieving process and how he's failing her as a father, dealing with his own therapist and patient files, and then dynamics with other people in his life. And then the daughter has her own issues. The daughter's fantastic, by the way. I'll say she's one of my favorite characters. Lukita Maxwell plays his daughter Alice. She's fantastic, like a young actress, and hits the emotional beats really well. And like I said, it's all anchored by good comedy that makes it so that it's not too heavy and depressing of a watch. So the second season, I thought I was more into season 2 than season 1. Personally, I like what they did with the character development, pushing the story along, diving into his wife passing away, where we find out details from the drunk driver's perspective in season 2 he's brought into the mix. So I thought that was a great addition. Who's actually played by, God, I forget his name, Brett Goldstein, who you'll know as he's here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Roy Kent from Ted Lasso. So he's actually one of the writers on the show, and I want to say an executive producer. So very talented individual. Loved seeing him in there. And yeah, Shrinking season 2, great show. Would recommend. Number 6.
Shoot, Eric. I mean, again, stumped me. I have never watched Shrinkage. I know of it. I like your description of it, like comedy and drama. Probably super easy to watch. Yeah, I don't know. I can't add anything. I wrote it down. I'm going to check it out. Especially like that you said season 2 is better than, like, more enjoyable than season 1. Like, I like shows that progressively get better, so.
Yeah. Just to make sure, it's Shrinking. I don't know if you said Shrinkage there, but okay, sounds good. I heard Shrinkage. I'm like, no, we ain't talking Seinfeld here. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to correct that right now. Shrinking. Okay. My number 5 show probably had the couple moments in the season where I had the biggest smile on my face. Like, the content of this show is near and dear to my heart. Number 5 is The Rings of Power, season 2. I did a whole episode on it, Eric. We both love Lord of the Rings, Tolkien's world. Like, this show hit every beat perfectly. The Battle of Eregion was epic. All the scenes with Sauron. I'm not gonna talk too much more on it. Like, it was, in terms of pure fun, this was the show this year for me. Did hit the emotional depths of some of my, like, the other 4 shows I have written down, but in terms of pure fun enjoyment, smile on my face, Rings of Power did it for me, and had some, like, I didn't know this would be as good as this top season 1 in my opinion. We discussed that already, so yeah, Rings of Power season 2, loved it. Do you want to add anything, Eric? I know we talked about it at length.
Yeah, I mean, we did 2 full episodes on it, if you'll recall. The mid-season analysis and then the final 3 episodes visited. So, yeah, I mean, not too much to add, right? I really enjoyed it as well. Great expansion on the world that we love, and more Sauron is good for us. So, no, great pick. Number 5. So, I don't know, top 5 for me now. Like, these are the shows that Shrinking was, like, right on the cusp of top 5 for me. But again, I had to look back at, I just watched it. It's so fresh in my mind's Sauron's eye. So I couldn't bump off the other 5 shows I have above it. This one, I think is I don't think you've watched this one, but I really enjoyed it. It's an anime show called Kaiju Number 8. I think I mentioned this a while back on the pod. It's basically it's a monster anime show where there's these kaiju, so monsters such as Godzilla, who roam around Japan, and there's a task force that's created to eliminate this threat whenever it comes into the city or the bordering countryside. And these are elite killers that have equipment made to kill these monsters. And for me, what made this show a top 5 show was that the final 5 to 10 minutes of almost every single episode had absolutely off the wall, insane action scenes that fired me up alongside the musical cues that they hit when these action scenes were happening were just amazing. And I can't wait for season 2 of this show. I thought the characters in it were really cool. There's actually a lot of goofy, funny moments in there too, led by our main character, Hibiro Kafka. He's kind of a clown, and he himself is actually a monster. So he ingests, in the first episode, this bug that imbues kaiju abilities, and he is kaiju number 8. So
Okay.
he is a man most of the time, but then when some sort of primal instinct kicks in, he turns into a monster in man dimensions, basically. He's not enormous, like take down buildings. He can take down buildings, just not by walking. It's because of his strength that he has in this form that he's unstoppable.
Okay.
And his look is just super cool, and he kills other kaiju. So he's a good guy, but the task force also knows about him and wants to kill him as well. So they don't see him as a man. He's still a monster at the end of the day. So he's kind of hiding this, living a double life, basically. He's on the task force, but is the monster that they're also trying to kill.
Okay.
So it makes for an interesting storyline where some characters do find out that he is the monster, and his close friends are conflicted about it. Some of them don't turn on him. Others think about it. So there's a lot of good stuff going on in there, and we're seeing more evolved kaiju as the show goes along. Others that have the capacity to become men, so are sneaking into society and posing as humans when they're also monsters. It reminded me of the show that I loved, Attack on Titan, as well. So there's a connection there that I find the similarities between those two shows. But yeah, Kaiju number 8, super, I'd say just a sick anime show. So that would be my number 5 pick of 2024.
Damn, I had a feeling this would be on your list, and I still dropped the ball and didn't check it out. I will say, though, a coworker who's really into anime praised this show. Because I remembered you talking about it. I asked him about it, and he said it was a really great show. So, again, with you and the coworker, like, praising the same. This is a different one, different coworker, but this coworker, like, watches every anime. So I knew he was in the know on it. So
Nice.
I wrote it down. Cool premise, though. I didn't know that was the exact premise, though, so I'll have to check it out probably after. So far, I've got Mr. and Mrs. Smith as the top one I want to watch, but this one seems like quick, right? Like 10 episodes, 30 minutes, Eric, or an hour?
Oh, no, they're like 20-some minute up. Anime is always
perfect.
in a 20-minute range, like 22 minutes, so.
Oh, perfect. Crank that in a weekend.
Yeah.
Nice, good pick. Sounds like a great show.
Nice.
Okay, number 4. Our first repeat at number 4.
Oh.
Hopefully not our last repeat, but our first one. Number 4, I have Disclaimer.
Nice.
Alfonso Cuarón. What I liked, is the characters. I honestly, we talked about it a bit briefly before, but honestly, I was rooting for some characters in the first half of the show, and then in the second half, totally not. I was like, oh my god, I was fooled by this show, Eric. I didn't know this show would be all like Rashomon-y. I didn't know it was going to go that way. Love that the unreliable narrator, right? The unreliable storyteller. Love that stuff. People's reactions to hearing things from other people talking about their loved ones. You know, like, you're getting secondhand information. Do you trust it right away? Do you go to the store? It's like what Sacha Baron Cohen does as the husband in this show is like, would I do that? Would I just do something completely different? Like, there's a lot of what ifs that I love. That this is stuff that does happen in real life, right? So I love all that stuff, Eric. I like putting myself in their shoes. Like, what would I do in that situation? You know, the grieving parents, Kevin Kline and Leslie Manville, maybe. They were like, how would you react? You know, to the death of. I don't want to say too much, but. That's what I liked about the show, guys. The dialogue, the acting I mentioned before. The reveals, I kind of just took it at face value, but you're making me question, like, should I be, like, trusting one character over another? I'm not sure. There's clues, though. Really cool, like, like when we say Rashomon stuff, where you see one thing, you see how one event takes place, but then they show you like, oh, but there's also this that took place. With different variations. I don't know if I'm doing a good job of explaining, but
No.
like we've seen this in a million movies, guys. Like where you think this is what happened, that this is actually what happened. Cool stuff. Very easy show to binge,
Oh
actually.
yeah.
Always a very engrossing show. Anyways, disclaimer is my number 4. Floored by it, actually. I didn't know it was going to be that good, to be honest. I think it deserves a higher rating online, to be honest.
I,
So yeah, disclaimer number 4.
I agree. I think that you could say that for most Apple TV shows. I feel like they kind of all get that blanket, like, yeah, 6, 7 out of 10, six point
Yeah.
five, 7 out of 10. Nothing, you're never seeing 8s or 9s, which are rare, but across the board for these shows. But I think Disclaimer is one of the best Apple TV products we've seen. In terms of a drama and like thriller mystery show, it was phenomenal. No, I really enjoyed it as well. Definitely recommend to anybody who hasn't seen it and wants like a nice 7 episode bender that will keep you second guessing everything, rooting for some. I was kind of always rooting for the Catherine personally, but you could feel for honest. That's what they did such a good job for. You felt for everybody involved with all their different points of view and how their lives were ruined by something that happened however many years ago that still has repercussions, right? So a cautionary tale that you can try to outrun the past, but it always catches up to you by Raven or email. But yeah, so great pick, Matt. Number 4 for me, one that I'm pretty sure is going to be a repeat, is one that I actually started up, stopped, and then started up and stopped, and then finished yesterday. Shogun, going back to Japan here. Amazing show. Honestly, I think this is the best show of 2024. For why I don't have it as number 1 is for that reason I just said, is that I stopped a bunch of times watching it and didn't see it all the way through. I don't know why, to be honest. My guess would be because of the lack of ability to focus on the subtitles all the time, to be honest. I think that's what kind of tuned me out of the show at times, is that and this is sad to say, but it's just like that grip that the phone has on me, right? Where I'm tuning out,
Right.
going on Twitter for a couple of seconds, I miss something, rewind. Like I always felt like I had to be in the mindset of, okay, I'm gonna focus for this hour now and watch Shogun, which is a spectacularly made show. Speaking of cinematography, I find like I've wanted to go to Japan now for a while. It's high, still on the list, and watching this show really just hammered that point home in that it looks beautiful over there, whether it's just a nice sunlight day or there's a nice misty fog or snow. They hit all the kind of different atmospheres of Japan. The dialogue was amazing, acting phenomenal, good action in there too. It's not an all-out action show that you may think it is based on what the trailers look like, but there's a lot of political moves that are being done, tactical decisions, sacrifices made. Torinaka is a brilliant mastermind playing 3D chess out there. He was, a big fan of everybody. Lady Mariko, I was a big fan of. And another character I was a huge fan of was Yabushiji. Ah, man, I'm butchering his name, but you know what I'm talking about. So,
Yeah.
kind of the right-hand man to Torinawa
Yeah.
who always like betrays everybody essentially. Like, he's always kind of just looking out for himself. He was hilarious, I found.
Yeah.
Always just looking out for his own skin, making empty promises. He was I found a good comedic relief and someone who I was always interested to see, like, all right, what's going to happen to this guy? He's double crossing everybody. You'd think it catches up to you at some point. So anyways, no, Shogun, glad I finished it. The last 2 episodes were really good, and really excited for seasons 2 and 3 that have already been announced and I think are in the works right now. So Shogun, number 4.
I'm glad you finished the show, Eric, and that you loved it. This is the Game of Thrones of 2024. It's Game of Thrones in feudal Japan, the shogunates, the samurai era, right? So setting, costumes, everything, like just the weapons, the fighting, the authenticity of the period is amazing. Makes you want to go to Japan. Exactly. Love the characters too. The main guy, Toranaga, is played by Hiroyuki Sanada, who you've seen in a million movies. Okay, he's in Bullet Train. He's in The Wolverine. He's always playing like a Japanese gangster. He's on the show Lost. He's in the movie The Ring, the original Japanese horror film. He's like a Japanese. He's also a singer in Japan. He's the Japanese, like, name our biggest actor. He's like Japan's like big actor. He's so beloved over there, and he's great in this show. Even the guy who plays John in the show was good. I liked his character, the stranger character.
The barbarian.
The actor who plays Kashiji, or however you say his name. Wait, I have it written down.
Yeah, Yabushiji.
His name. Yabushiji. Kashiji Yabushiji, played by Tadanobu Asano. This guy too is a rock star in Japan. He plays in a rock band and he's an actor. He's in like Thor, right? He's Thor's friend in the Thor movies.
True.
He's a really good actor too. He's great. I've seen him in some Japanese stuff too. There's a movie where he also plays Genghis Khan, a Mongol movie. Anyways, all this to say is you get like some of Japan's best actors in this show, and it's beautiful to watch. I agree with you, not as much action as you would think, but a lot of cool political 3D chess power plays that I loved. You have to pay attention. The names are confusing. I've rewinded myself some episodes too, right? I'm like, okay, I missed this. There's a lot of different lords and factions and families and clans, and it's not always clear who's the son of who and who's with who, so it can be a bit confusing. I agree. Subtitles are like, you can't put your head down because of the subtitles, right? Yeah, I loved Shogun too, Eric. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now. Number 3, I've loved every season of this show so far. Number 3 for me is The Bear. Season 3 of The Bear at my number 3. I like how this show for season 3 went like a completely different route of like, some episodes are like artsy stylistic, some episodes are super in your face, like kind of annoying almost. Annoying like that movie Uncut Gem, you know, just like super hyper and shouting all the time, just like in season 1 basically. Some episodes that were flashbacks, like the episode about Tina, how she got the job with Carmine, well, not with Carmine, but with the brother, I forget his name, but that was a really good episode. The episode where Carmine's sister is pregnant and then Jamie Lee, the mom is there, just kind of annoying her at first, but then soothing her, like we're making her relax, like kind of the different like array of different types of episodes we got. I liked that of The Bear season 3, and the dynamic between Richie in the front of the restaurant and then Carmine in the back, like them fighting each other and barking orders. Like I like seeing that. I like the food industry on screen. I like seeing how fast paced and hectic it is. Yeah, I mean, The Bear season 3, I love this show actually, and I'm glad that this season was just as good as the other ones, and it made my list again. So number 3, The Bear season 3.
Okay, nice. So you asked me 2 days ago. The Bear is one of those shows that, similarly to Shogun, I did not finish. Well, similarly to Shogun, I did finish it yesterday in anticipation of it being on your list, because if you'll recall, I said I wasn't as crazy about season 3 as I was for 2, which was my favorite show of 2023. So Bear season 3 won't be in my top 3, but I do want to speak about it because personally I loved episodes 9 and 10. I'm glad I picked it back up. I think there was an amazing way to finish the season. I'm all the way in on season 4, but I hope it's not as chaotic as it was in season 3, where the highs for me were I love the artistic stuff. Like, I love what they've done kind of from the start of this show with all the cuts to vignettes of the city, the food, seeing Carm and Sydney, how their two characters are kind of mirrored in their ambition to grow and thrive in the food industry, striving for perfection, always like giving their lives to cooking basically and coming up with the perfect meal. Like, I like seeing their growth as characters, but at what cost? I don't like seeing the yelling in the kitchen all the time. Like, that, for me, it just annoys me. It didn't like that in season 1. I'm glad they didn't have it in season 2, and I don't know, I didn't really love that it was all the way back in season 3. And another problem I had with season 3 is wait, like, for the love of God, in season 4, dial it back on facts. Like, I don't want to see facts in every second scene. They're way too much. Like, their scenes also lasted way too long. Like, them going back and forth on, are we haunted? Oh, who would haunt us, bro? I don't know. That means there's people who would haunt us. Who would haunt us right now? I can think of 2 people who would haunt us right now, and I'm gonna list you the people who are haunting us right now. Like, stuff like that is like, I don't give a shit about who's haunting you guys unless it's moving the plot forward, which I don't think any of this was. Then we got John Cena showing up for what reason? I don't even know what they're thinking there. But that being said, episodes 9 and 10 were really good. I like where we're headed here, and that now the Bear, the restaurant, is getting some fame, some notoriety as well. And we're now seeing Chef Sydney, who may be veering off in her own direction and feels a lot of anxiety and panic about leaving the group. Which, that's another thing that frustrates me about this show, and I guess shows in general. Characters will always not want to say what's going on. Like, hey, are you good? What's going on with you? Like, no, I'm fine. When we all know, like, there's something you want to share to this character who's right in front of you. Like, there's no better time than right now. And obviously, them delaying it is just going to cause more problems down the road. So, similarly to a Dee Dee, frustrating decision-making being made by our protagonists. Now, what else did I like about this show? Like, I'm fascinated by, and I don't know if we're going to see more of this, and I like that we got more insight on this character in season 3, is the Joel McHale character, who has been this John Tortorella-esque mentor to Carm, right? And whose cause is the root cause of a lot of his anxiety, depression, and mental illness. Who I love their scene in the last episode where he confronts him, and then it just... This guy is just so narcissistic and has convinced himself that what he does to other chefs is good and that they should be thanking him for where they're at because of him. It's just, I found that really interesting, and I want to see where that kind of goes in season 4. Anyway, I feel like this is the show I've talked about the most, and it's not even on my list. So The Bear is a fantastic show. I wanted to say that the ranting and the shouting and all that was too much. Let's get back to more season 2, character development, plot development, less facts. And let's get Claire Bear back in the mix. You know they're going to end up back together. Come on now.
Right. Good rundown, Eric.
Yeah. Feel very passionately about The Bear season 3.
I don't disagree with that. No, I don't disagree with some of that stuff.
Are you a fact guy?
I guess I love the highs. The highs for me I love, and yeah. Again, maybe slightly annoying, but I still know I like him way more than you do. I don't mind him at all. He's the creator of the show. He can put himself as many times as he wanted in the scene, right? So, whatever.
No, that's true. He has every right to go in there, and they mean well. Both of them do, but I just sometimes they grind my gears. Those two, but. They did have some funny scenes at the end where they visited Claire in the hospital. Like, there's some funny moments with them for sure. Anyways, we'll move on to my number 3 that I actually don't have nearly as much to say about than I did for your number 3, which would be my number 1 at the midway mark, X-Men 97. This was one that, again, animated show, big fan of that genre because it allows you to do that medium because it allows you to do whatever your mind can your mind can think of. And it's really cool, beloved characters that haven't really gotten their just desserts on the big screen. And they nailed it to perfection here with the story they told. Magneto, absolute badass in this show. Had some bone-chilling dialogue about the us versus them being oppressed in the world of men. And being cast out as other because of their abilities. I just love the plot the story that they decided to tell there. The animation looked really cool, old school hand-drawn style. Looking forward to season 2. Yeah, X-Men 97. I'm going purely based on enjoyment factor here. Every time an episode dropped, I absolutely loved it. Wanted more at the end of the episode and season. Similarly to Kaiju number 8, X-Men 97 had phenomenal action sequences. And yeah, I mean, I think this was the best Marvel product of 2024. No questions asked for me. And deserves that ranking in my book. So yeah, X-Men 97, number 3 spot for me.
Love to see it, Eric. This show was super enjoyable. Just pure enjoyment factor. I loved it. I thought some of the episodes went a little too far, like, out there, and that's why. Like, this show, it was going to be my number 10, but then I switched it for Black Doves, honestly. Did I have more pure enjoyment watching X-Men 97? Perhaps, but Black Doves had, I don't know, I kind of dismissed animation this year. Maybe I shouldn't have, because there's a couple other good animated shows I watched, but I loved how the good episodes were great in the sense that, like, stuff that's relatable to what we see in the X-Men, like the live action movies. Like, this had stuff done through animation that's like you see in normal movies and in like some of the best movies ever made, and like they did this in like 20 to 30 minute episodes quickly, and I'm like, they got right to the point there. The action is epic, just the way the characters look. Like, sometimes action isn't choreographed really nicely and it's too fast or too slow. This was done perfectly. Some really weird, like the storylines of like Jean and Scott's like child and the time travel stuff, like that was really out there for me. Really cool. True. Bad guys like Sinister and like the giant like Sentinels, like that's old school X-Men storylines. Like the movies don't even touch the Sentinels and robots like that, but that's huge in the video games and the comic books. I can't wait for season 2 of this, honestly. This should honestly maybe have bumped Black Dove now that I'm thinking about it. But I don't know. My bias went to live action stuff.
That's fair.
But I'm glad it's on your list, Eric. I'm really glad it's on your list, number 3, X-Men 97. Yeah, definitely the best Marvel product of the year. Yeah. My number 2 is a show that features like a legendary performance by the lead. I don't think I brought this show up at all this year, but number 2 is True Detective season 4. I'm just joking. It's not. Right away you're laughing. You're like, yeah, nice try. But okay. So my true number 2 does feature legendary performance, but not by Jodie Foster. My number 2 features a legendary performance by Colin Farrell. My number 2 is The Penguin. I absolutely love this show, Eric. The gangster show set in Gotham, you know. We got his character in the Batman movie 2-3 years ago, and now we get to see a full show on him and him taking the reins. Power vacuum after Carmine Falcone dies. What's going to happen? Starts off with a bang, episode 1, you know, with a death, and just goes from there. He meets Vic, and then, like, the flow of this show is perfect, in my opinion. Like, you want to watch the next episode right away. I watched it week to week, so it was hard to wait, but just the Gotham nightlife, crime scene, like, different factions vying for power. Love that, Eric. I absolutely love that stuff. And again, like, let's go back to the legendary performance. Colin Farrell, unrecognizable as the Penguin, but, like, he did such a great job, you know, sitting in the chair every day for the makeup to be put on, probably for hours, and then shooting his stuff like that. I can't praise Colin Farrell enough, honestly. It's an amazing performance. The ending is kind of heartbreaking. You kind of root for the Penguin in the show, but, like, he is evil still. Like, he's pretty scummy what he did, like, in the past as a kid and what he's doing in the future. Loved Sophia too. She was great. Christiana Melody, correct her name if I'm wrong. Yeah, she was really good. Do you want to add something, Eric? I know we already discussed it at length, but, like, I know you got stuff to say on this one.
Yeah, I might as well add it because it's also my number 2 of the year. So first true overlap right there. Love to see it. Amazing show, honestly. Like, it had a claim at number 1 for me. Like, I definitely thought about it. Kristen Milioti, I think, again, it's like between her and Kate Blanchett, I think, for main actress in a limited series. Unless they renew this for a second season, but I don't think that's the plan. But she was fantastic as the Hangman. It's such a interesting character in that we find out more about her backstory and what actually happened to leading to her incarceration in Arkham, and then how she transforms in there, comes out hell-bent on vengeance, and then her rise in the crime family scene. Speaking of which, another character that deserves his flowers is Theo Rossi's Dr. Julian Rush. Just a subtle, stellar performance from the boy. And looking forward to see where that dynamic leads, and see if we see him down the road again with Kristen Milioti in some capacity, whether be it through flashback or whatnot. But no, the Penguin, like you said, you root for him even though he's a scumbag. But throughout the show, it's from his point of view. You're supposed to root for him, and then obviously things kind of change as the show goes along. Maybe a Walter White influence in what we're supposed to be left with this character at the end of the show. Perfectly handled. Definitely some things I didn't see coming closer to the end, but it made sense, right? Like we talked about in the episode, not what we would have liked to see happen in some cases, but had to be done. And it's dude's a villain, so yeah, I mean, sets the stage for the now delayed another year Batman Part 2 out in 2027. But we'll be here to cover it at that point in time. So, yeah, no, Colin Farrell crushed. I hope he gets an Oscar out of this as well. A Golden Globe maybe, we'll see. But phenomenal performances all around the board.
I love that it's both our number two there. That's awesome. You'd be on. I'm probably feeling be on your list, but it's awesome that they're both at the same spot.
Yeah.
All right, my number one. It shouldn't be a surprise. You even said it's the best show of 2024, and I agree with you. My number one is Shogun. I binged this show when I was in London, England, on vacation with my family. I was watching it every night. Maybe that, I have that nostalgic attachment to it now, but, I was totally engrossed in this show. I did not want this show to end. That's how the true mark of a good show, right? I didn't want it to end. I wanted to keep watching, keep seeing the events. I wanted a big epic battle. I wanted to see I wanted to see more in that world. That's the political intrigue, the power plays that Torinaga's doing in the show, using all the tactics he knows. Sometimes he's trapped somewhere he needs to get out, like the escapes in the night. Lady Mariko was super. She was badass. She was what she does at the end is shocking. Really, it's her fortitude, her solidarity, her strength. Basically, she's one of the strongest characters in the show. I don't know what else to say. The violence and action that we did get in the show is super good and bloody and violent, cool, fun to watch. I like samurai epics. They're like the westerns of Japan. So it's a cool nostalgic world that you're oh, I want to live in that time. It seems really cool. But then you watch Shogun and you're okay, maybe not, because people die left and right. A Game of Thrones style. So anyway, Shogun's my number one. 10 out of 10 for all the technical stuff, and then love the story too. So it's a 10 out of 10 show for me in general. Number one, Shogun.
Great pick. And I mean, I agree. It'd be super cool, you'd think, to live in that kind of world, but then if you speak out of turn, you're ordered to commit seppuku, and then it's game over. You're asking, all right, who's going to be my second out here? So I think that's ideal. Like I said, it's the best show of the year for sure. It should be number one on most lists. I think it's well deserved. Standout performances, like you said, Anna Sawai, who played Lady Mariko, she was amazing. I think she, out of this, is going to get a lot of roles offered her way. I think she won either Best Lead or Supporting Actress in some ceremony at some point this year, and if she's in the awards for this upcoming season as well at Golden Globes, she'll for sure get something out of this. She was so good. And Cosmo Jarvis, who plays John Blackthorne, at first I wasn't really sure about him. All right, what's this Josh Allen looking goofball doing on their screen? And he kind of grows on you as the season goes. And he's actually going to be in Alex Garland's next movie, Warfare. And I'm sure he's going to get other offers as well, because he did have some sort of charisma and impressive presence on screen. So I'm curious to see what comes out of this show for these actors that I've singled out there. So it's funny you said that this is her 2024's Game of Thrones in a year where an actual Game of Thrones show did air and is on neither of our lists, because House of the Dragon Season 2 is definitely not my number one show of the year. But your number 5 show is my number one show, Rings of Power Season 2, which This again, like I said, even when we talked about this show at the time, not the best show of the year. Like I think Penguin and Shogun are technically better shows than Rings of Power season 2, but I absolutely loved this show, and this season of the show in particular I thought elevated it to the next level because of, I've said it once, I'll say it again, Charlie Vickers' performance as Anatar, aka Sauron, was just phenomenal. You're not going to see that name appear on any year-end list of best lead actor in a drama show, but I think he carried this show with charisma, aura, humor, and just perfect line delivery and command of every single scene. Perfect Sauron portrayal, in my opinion. And the battle episodes in Eregion were just truly cinematic quality that would make Peter Jackson, I'm sure, shed multiple tears. And I was enthralled watching this show and those specific episodes. Hooked. Talking about being on my phone because of subtitles and Shogun. The phone was locked in the next room on another floor when I was watching those episodes. And it's the Game of Thrones effect for me with this show, that I was dialed in the whole time. If I did check how much time was in an episode and I saw there'd be another 15 minutes, I was just fired up. Long episodes too, but I wanted more. Yeah, the show I enjoyed the most of 2024. Can't wait for season 3. Love what they did in here. And again, Celebrimbor will give him some flowers as well. I thought was a fantastic character. Loved his dynamic with Anatar. And yeah, that's like the main storyline. Despite the gripes that I had with other storylines, I looked past them for this show because the highs were so high that I just, this can't be ignored. Rings of Power season 2, first overall pick for me, which I know is a divisive season and a divisive show in general, where people maybe scoffed at some of the dialogue, but I like where the narrative was pushed forward with the rings being shared to the dwarves now, and the corruptive influence being apparent in this season. Yeah, that's my number one show of the year, Rings of Power season 2.
Awesome. I'm so glad I'm so happy it's your number one, Eric, because honestly, biggest smile on my face during this show, and like goosebumps, like during multiple scenes, not just with like the battle scenes, but scenes between like Durin and his dad, and like this was, like I said, a biggest smile on my face. We love Tolkien. This was so fun to watch. Yeah, glad it's your number one. Biggest like you said, House of the Dragon, such a huge disappointment. Like Rings of Power totally outclassed it this time around. And I'm glad it did, because that universe is more well liked in my opinion. Like I like the Tolkien universe more than the George Martin universe. So happy it's your number one.
Yeah, just quickly on the House of the Dragon, I think if they do season 3 correctly, I think season 2 is one that we could look back at when time has passed as a very important season, and one that was maybe underappreciated at the time just because really not a whole lot happened. It seemed like a full setup season, where season 1 was kind of seen as a setup season. So I think House of the Dragon season 3 absolutely needs to deliver on the action and big moments, because it failed in season 2. Like that's just a fact. But if it's done correctly, we can again see season 2 like, all right, they did this really correctly and set everything up beautifully. And then it can be looked at with maybe revisionist history as like, oh, you know what? This was a good season of television. And that's, again, maybe I'm just being optimistic here, but that's what I could see happen. But yeah, in a vacuum in 2024, House of the Dragon season 2 was a letdown. We can get into some of the listener submissions, and we got a fair share of them. So the first one was from the homie Ron Antoine. He submitted Matlock, which I'm not familiar with.
Oh.
Matt, or I guess you are. Do tell.
My parents watch and really like the show. It's based on an old TV show from back in the day, but Kathy Bates plays the main character, and apparently she's great in it. It's going to be her last like movie and TV show she's doing for her illustrious career. So yeah, I've heard good things. It's a cable TV show, right? It's on cable, so I heard good things.
Okay, right on. So thank you for that. The next one was from the homie Will. He submitted Arcane Season 2, which I believe is another animated show that gets a lot of props from the people. Shogun and Fallout, so both seasons 1. So obviously we've touched on Shogun and Fallout. Are you familiar with Arcane, Matt? Will continuously recommends it to me. Obviously no Netflix, so I can't. But you Netflix guy, have you seen it, heard of it?
I've definitely heard of it, and it's highly praised by everyone who watches it. It's a It's actually based off like characters from the League of Legends game. I'm like 99% sure of this, and everyone who watches it, it has a super high rating, like the highest rating ever on IMDb. It's like a 9 maybe. I should be watching it, honestly. It looks like a great show, Eric. So, well, one of us will have to do the homework and watch it and get back to the others. So that's on my list for 2020 for this year. So
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a big animation guy, so maybe it could naturally fall to you. Have the Netflix account, might just naturally fall to you, but we'll see where she goes.
Right.
So the next ones were from my mom. So she submitted Cross, Season 1, Rings of Power, Season 2, Slow Horses, Season 4, Disclaimer, and then Fargo, Season 5. So a lot in there. Anyone that you want to touch on, Matt?
No, I'm just not familiar with Cross, but Slow Horses, Apple show I need to get on, and Fargo, I didn't even know Season 5 came out, but that's interesting. So, that show kind of dipped, right? Like, there's a big quality dip, but maybe I'll check out Season 5 now that your mom's recommended it.
Yeah, Fargo...
I'm not sure what Cross is.
Cross is a show that I think it's some sort of a police detective show. It's on Prime. Both my parents and my brother Zach also watched it and really strongly recommended it. So I didn't get to it because I was knee deep in The Americans, which I've fallen off on. So maybe now is the time to check out Cross, see what the hype's all about, but that's on the list for sure. Slow Horses Season 4, similarly to Shogun and The Bear, shows that I watch in like intermittently, so I should have binged this, and I think my appreciation for it would have been higher. It was also my friend JP's submission for 2024 as well. He was a big Slow Horses Season 4 guy. And then Fargo Season 5, I think, was a nice return to form. Kind of, I'd say the third best season out of the bunch, starring Juno Temple and John Hamm would be the two main characters, but it had a good supporting cast as well. Really good stuff. John Hamm plays an absolute scumbag, thinks he's the God's son. He's a very religious character, the sheriff that has all the almighty authority to do whatever he wants in the village that he's the sheriff for. So a very hateable character, and Juno Temple is his stranger wife that's ran away from him. So she has kind of a double life as well, Kaiju number 8 style. So there's Fargo Season 5 is really good, actually. I would recommend it. And that came out in December 2023, so it bled into 24. So those kind of shows are tough because by the time we're doing our list, we're kind of, this show's not even done yet, right? So it's hard to include kind of like a Skeleton Crew, a Silo Season 2, for example. So, but no, great picks. Thank you for that. Next one was from the homie, my cousin Dan. He also submitted Shrinking Season 2. So, good pick, Dan. The next one was from the homie Keenan McGrath. He submitted Arcane Season 2. So
nice.
Is he the anime guy, or is there another one?
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, he's a coworker of mine. I trust his opinion, actually. We have similar tastes, so.
Nice.
Arcane, okay.
So the next one is from the homie, former guest, Hip Hop Fiend 85. He submitted The Penguin and From and Them. Not sure. I've never heard of that show.
I only know From, and it's a horror TV show. Like, it's scary, and everyone's recommending it to me because they know I like scary stuff, so I'll have to check that out.
Okay,
I'm not sure what Them is either.
I thought From and Them was the name of the show, but I guess From is a show and Them is a show.
I believe so, yeah. Okay. I know the show From, it's just called From, so I'm just guessing Them is its own show as well.
Okay. All right, so thank you, Brandon. The next one is from the homie, recurring guest as well, Curtis. He submitted 2 animes, Solo Leveling and Dan Da Dan. I've heard of Solo Leveling, never the latter. Dan Da Dan. Not
No,
sure if you have, Matt, but
no idea. No idea what those are.
okay.
I'm sure they're great though.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And then the next one is from the homie, my friend Alex. He also submitted Shrinking Season 2 and Landman, which is, I believe, airing on Paramount TV Plus, starring Billy Bob Thornton and John Hamm, I think, are the two leads in there. So I've heard good things in there. He had nothing but good things to say about the Landman and Shrinking Season 2. So, yeah. Have you seen Landman or heard of it?
I've heard of Landman. I've heard good things. It's on my list. I don't even know if the show's completely over. This is the show that came out at the end of the year again, where I was like, oh, I don't want to start a show too late in the year. I've already got this many shows watched.
Yeah.
Cool. It's like Texas oil field politics and kind of like Yellowstone in Texas, stuff, shady shit happening basically is what I got. So looks fun.
And that shady shit is in these days. I believe it's the same creator, Taylor Sheridan, I want to say.
Taylor Sheridan.
So
that's right.
Guy's just found his pocket and he's just exploiting it as much as he can. So, hey, get your bag by any means, brother. So, no, good picks. Thank you for that. Next one is from my bro, Zach. He was so I obviously mentioned Cross. He was a big Batman the Caped Crusader guy this year. So, animated show on Prime Video. He had nothing but good things to say about it. So, that's one that's also on my list, animation guy. So, I'll have to check that one out. Did you get a chance to watch this one, Matt?
I did not. I heard good things about it, but I feel like it wasn't as watched as like some of these other shows we talked about. Mm-hmm. Kind of flew under the radar, maybe. So I'll have to watch. We like Batman content, so yeah, I'll check that out.
So yeah, I think that was it for submissions. Again, just refer to Instagram if ever submitting these. Tend to miss them if they're texted to me or if I have to scribble them down on a piece of paper. So Instagram story, always your best bet if you want to get in on this and create some dialogue. But yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, for the submissions. Great list, Matt. Do you want to run through it one more time, just a reminder of everything?
Yeah. Okay, so my list, at number 10, I had Black Doves. At number 9, I had Fallout. Number 8 is The Gentleman. Number 7 is Baby Reindeer. Number 6 is Ripley. Number 5 is Rings of Power. Number 4 is Disclaimer. Number 3 is The Bear, Season 3. Number 2 is The Penguin. Number 1 is Shogun.
Nice. So for me, number 10, Presumed Innocent. Number 9, Agatha All Along. Number 8, Disclaimer. Number 7, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Number 6, Shrinking. Number 5, Kaiju number 8. And number 4, Shogun. Number 3, X-Men 97. Number 2, Penguin. Number 1, Rings of Power, Season 2. So yeah, great list, Matt.
I love your list.
Too much overlap, just 2, I think. Penguin and Disclaimer. So no, we had 3. But good, and Rings of Power, yeah. Yeah, all right, so 4.
Yeah,
anyways.
3 or 4, right?
Yeah. No, good list. Nice biodiversity in there. Is there anything that you're looking forward to in 2025 in terms of shows that are coming up? Anything on your radar on that front?
Yeah.
All right, let it rip.
Yeah, actually, basically stuff in 2025 that additional seasons of shows that I haven't even seen season 1, like Severance is the big one I'm thinking of. I think season 2's coming out this year. I've never seen season 1, and I hear nothing but good things about Severance. And also, what was that other one? There was another one like that. But like Landman, I'm going to count that. I don't even know if the show's done, but that show I want to watch. Let me just look. I wrote a couple down. Basically, the shows that there's a new season every, like Mr. and Mrs. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like, I'm excited for season 2 because you and my coworker praised season 1. Do you have anything off, while I think of more, do you have any off the top of your head?
So, I agree. Severance, one that we definitely got to get on. People just it's the freaking best thing since sliced bread, according to these Severance sites. So, got to watch that for sure. Me, I'll rattle off like Stranger Things season 5. When that's announced, that has a release date. Gonna get Netflix back and crush that. Probably rewatch the whole show, to be honest. The kids are like almost my age now, for God's sakes. But looking forward to seeing that. The finale, Vecna, hopefully comes out on top. I mean, obviously not, but so yeah, Stranger Things season 5, The Last of Us season 2. I'm excited for. I'm excited for White Lotus season 3, Wednesday season 2. Just looking at the A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So speaking of Game of Thrones, it's another spin-off that obviously, hopefully we're not getting oversaturated with these Game of Thrones spin-offs, but I have read the book about them, Sir Duncan the Tall and his squire Egg. So they kind of go on these misadventures across Westeros and participating in tournaments, helping villages from brigands, stuff like that. So hopefully that's a show that can kind of get us back in the good books in the Game of Thrones universe. So I'm excited for that one. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms for sure. And then obviously, yeah, I think those are the ones that are on my radar right now.
I forgot about some of those, but yeah, Stranger Things, very excited. Finally, like closure, like end this saga. Mm-hmm. I know there's going to be, speaking of Stranger Things, there's going to be an It TV show, like Stephen King's It, called It Dairy or something like that.
Yep.
That has a lot of like Stranger Things vibes, you know, like band of kids coming together fighting supernatural forces. I'm excited for that. I know there's a Daredevil show, right? I think Marvel's getting like the Marvel shows. I don't know, Eric. The Ironheart, Daredevil. I don't know. Marvel's lost faith. You know, I don't know.
Okay.
Skeleton Crew. Okay, go ahead.
I'm excited for Daredevil. That's probably, I'm gonna say, probably my number one in terms of like, let's get us back on track here, people. For God's sakes, right. We can't all be relying on your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in the animated medium for Marvel to really get me into this. Like I'm praying Daredevil's good. And it's pretty soon. I think that's in March that's coming out. So no, Daredevil is for sure one that I'm hoping that it's closer to the Daredevil that Netflix had originally put out back in the mid 2010s than, I don't know, like the products we're getting these days, right? Less She-Hulk Daredevil, more Daredevil Netflix. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Have you started the Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to recommend it a few episodes ago. I forgot. I'm enjoying it. Like it's for sure a kids show through and through. I'm like 3 episodes in, but I'm liking the vibe. It has like kind of a Stranger Things-esque feel to it. Inoffensive. I think the kids are pretty good. I don't love the main kid. Wim, I want to say is his name. I'm more of a Neil guy myself. KB. I forget the other kid's name, but I think I prefer them. And then Jude Law, like he's kind of keeping you guessing. I don't know if you're up to date or watching at all, but no, I'm enjoying it overall. I think it's a nice little, like I said, inoffensive, fun to be back in the Star Wars universe show.
Yeah, I've watched the first 2 episodes, but it's a show, if I'm really bored and have nothing else, I'll throw on. But it would count as a 2025 technically too, right? So maybe I'll watch it just to my numbers. But I do. We love the Star Wars universe too. So any additional info we get on that universe is fun to watch. It's got a Goonies vibe a little bit too, right? Yeah. Like kids going off on an adventure. So yeah, okay. I'll definitely finish the show.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's. What's up?
No, I was just gonna say, did we go long and? I know we've been going on for quite a bit, or did you want to recommend more stuff, or did you want to just cap it here?
I'll recommend just a few things, because obviously our next episode is the biggest top 10 one of the year, I want to say. So just going into that movie episode, like if you can get out to the theater or just try to find some of these critically acclaimed movies so that we don't have to worry too much about spoiling stuff when we're discussing them. So if you can go to the theater, I'm going to recommend go see Nosferatu. I saw it last night. I keep thinking about this movie, to be honest. I want to rewatch it. I'm not a massive Robert Eggers guy. I've seen The Northman and The Lighthouse. I'm kind of lukewarm, enjoyed them both vibe, but this one I really liked. I think the performances all around were really good, and it's a creepy movie. It's
Yeah.
It's a scary one, but I love the atmosphere, and yeah, I liked a lot about it. So Nosferatu is one that I would recommend to go see in theater. A Complete Unknown, Timothy Chalamet as Bob Dylan. Really good stuff, especially if you're a fan of Bob Dylan's music. Definitely check it out. So those are two in theaters that I think people should be going to see right now. And then if you can find, I just watched this other movie called A Real Pain this morning with Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, who obviously that movie's also getting some Oscar hype. Really good stuff.
Okay.
So I think if you can try to find those Oscar or critically acclaimed movies, give them a rip. 2024 had a bunch of good movies that I think it's gonna be hard. I'm struggling right now to make my top 10. Like I've had it set for so long, and I'm like, oh, just the 10 to 8 spots up for grabs. Now I'm rethinking everything. So other than like some movies, obviously, but yeah, no, it was a good year for movies.
Hey, if you want to do a top 15 or top 20, let me know. No, it's going to be hard for me, too, to make a top 10. I still have those heavy hitters to watch. Didn't even know what A Real Pain was till I saw your review and somebody else's, and I'm like, what is this movie? And I think Jesse Eisenberg directed it as well as starred in it, so I had to add it to my list, and I got to find it now. Yeah, I'm still... I don't want to recommend this movie. I just want to talk about how disappointing it was. Could have been so much better. Gladiator 2, I finally watched it. Average, very average. It's like a super beautiful car with no engine, you know? Like, it's not epic. It's not bone-chillingly inspiring like the first one. It's just cool to look at visually, but not like... It's missing some oomph, you know? Nosferatu I did love, though. I watched that too. We already talked, I think. I talked about it in person, not on the podcast. Yeah, I'm with you on Nosferatu. Beautifully shot, creepy, eerie. The score, it was all great. I haven't stopped thinking about it either. Complete Unknown, really, that movie will be watched before we record the top 10, so I'm excited for that. I'd say, like, Anora is a movie that's going to be hard to see at the theater, but, like, it's a must-see for 2024, in my opinion. It's not a traditional, like, feel-good Oscar movie, and it's super unique, in my opinion, the movie Anora. But Mikey Madison, like, she's going to be nominated for an Oscar, so people should go see it for her performance, if anything. I love that movie, too. The top 10 movie is going to be hard to make, Eric. And we had heavy hitters at the start of the year, right? We don't need to say which one, but, like, there's some good movies that came out early this year, so... Gonna be hard.
Ricky Stenicki, the beekeeper, like all these things got to be taken into consideration, right? So
I was thinking more like.
I know.
You know which one, yeah.
But yeah, I think so. The Golden Globes, I'm pretty sure tomorrow at the time of recording. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, and if Mikey Madison, I hope she wins for Best Actress in Anora, obviously. So we'll see how that goes, and that could inform how the Oscars go as well. But yeah, definitely a must-see, I would say, as well. So, yeah, what was I going to say? Anyways, yeah, Gladiator 2, I agree with you. Like, it's not a classic, not in a hurry to rewatch that one either. Like, it's very just kind of predictable. I had thoughts on, like, what I think they should have done is keep, and I guess, spoiler for Gladiator 2, I don't care. Like, we're not going to talk about this. Isn't a top 10 movie. Gladiator 2 spoiler. Yeah. I think they should have built up the progression of Denzel Washington's character becoming the Emperor. Make that a 2-movie storyline where you're keeping him as your villain in the next movie. You're seeing him exert his influence on the 2 absolutely moronic emperors, which how the hell did those 2 guys get chosen to be emperors? I don't even want to find out. But maybe drag that out as a 2-movie arc. Not rush everything that everyone gets killed and then it's like, oh, he's the obvious bad guy now.
Right.
Stretch that out and then make the 3rd movie the takedown of the new corrupt Denzel Emperor. Instead of you're just trying to replicate Lucius as Maximus, and the guy like Paul Mescast is how I described him in someone's review, is the guy just did not have the aura of a Russell Crowe, in my opinion. Like, his strength and honor speech at the end just did not resonate with me at all. Like, I was I couldn't believe how all these men were being fired up by his very blanket boilerplate speech at the end, and that's supposed to inspire confidence and leadership. Like, I just didn't buy it. Um, Obviously, you can't help but compare to the original Gladiator, but I think they should have made his character be his own person rather than try to imitate and be a poor carbon copy of his father. That's kind of my take on the Lucius character and what I think they should have done. Because now, like, what's going to be the plot in Gladiator 3 now, which is already announced? Like, I don't even know. I'm probably going to go see it, but I'm not as hyped as I was for Gladiator 2. That's for sure.
Yeah, like I didn't mind watching it for the action and the look, but it ultimately a feeling of emptiness at the end where I was like, oh, like kind of a letdown, cramming 4 hour story arcs into like a 2.5 hour movie. Like they had a lot there, but just rushed everything. Same with Pedro Pascal's character. I thought that could have been handled differently.
Do you think they fire enough arrows at him? Sorry.
Yeah. It's a movie that could have been like probably got ruined in a boardroom with a bunch of guys saying, "No, we can't do this. We're cutting that." Like too many hands in the kitchen, mixing different things up and fucking it up, you know. But I mean, Ridley Scott's in his 80s. You're not every director kind of like goes downhill after a certain time. And if you look at overall film careers of directors, their best stuff is when they're younger and have more passion and drive. So I don't know. Yeah, a reverse recommendation, but I feel like we should talk about it because I think everyone's watched Gladiator 2, so... Yeah,
I agree. Good call. I did want to touch on it as well at one point there, but I'm glad you brought it up. So, yeah, I guess spoiler on the top 10, it ain't there, but still, it did have to be seen. I did enjoy the action. I'm not going to say I didn't hate the movie, but it just didn't reach the highs I would have hoped, so, which I think is fair.
If there's just the two of us for the top 10 movies, I think we'll give out like our biggest surprises and maybe biggest disappointments of the year for like Gladiator would be one of them, but I have more too probably. Mm-hmm. So we can give up shout outs like that too at the end of the show for next episode. Yeah. I think that'd be a good idea.
I like that as well. One more thing I'll recommend is completely pivoting from everything we're doing here. Is I got this as a Christmas gift. It's from my mother-in-law. It's a tangram puzzle. I don't know if you know what this is, Matt. You've seen this before? So it just fell on my laptop there. But basically, it's all these little pieces that you put in a shape to make a bigger shape. And I'm trying to just show on the screen here. It's pretty fun. Like, it's a nice little brain teaser that whenever I have like downtime or want to do a little something, 5-10 minutes, I put all these puzzle pieces together, the shapes to fill out the hexagon. Nice little way a little brain teaser, pass the time, and I feel a little productive rather than just scrolling on Instagram, watching reels, or on Twitter, looking at the World Juniors updates, right? So I'd recommend that tangram puzzle. You probably get these for relatively like under $20, I'd say, but it's a nice little add-on in the office if you want to spend some time. Yeah, tangram puzzle.
That's a great recommendation. I didn't even, like, totally blew my mind. Like, when you say you were pivoting, I'm like, all right, pivoting to an album. Pivoting to, like, a coaster puzzle. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
I got nothing else. I'm saving all my movie stuff for next episode, so...
Sounds good.
Should be an epic show.
Should be a lot of movies to discuss. And like I said, I got, like, 3-4 more I want to watch, and then I think I'll be all set. We'll keep it to top 10, and then we can do some honorable mention, or maybe when others list movies that we don't have, we can just give our full thoughts on there. So, should be fun. But yeah. So, I know, Matt, this was a lot of fun doing the top 10 TV show episode with you. Any final notes for the listeners?
To the listeners, thank you for checking out the podcast. Really appreciate it. To anyone who submitted a TV show, thank you so much. It's really fun interacting like this and hearing what your thoughts are. Eric, I had a blast talking about my top 10 shows with you. You had a great list. I'm going to have a lot of blind spots for me that I'm going to have to check out. And yeah, just everybody, again, thank you for listening. Every one of you, I'm very appreciative of the listening of the podcast, and thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise, Matt. Loved your list, and I got some homework to do on my end as well. So this is always a lot of fun. So yeah, thanks a lot everybody for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue to enjoy the winter months, and yeah, peace.